Hey man, if there's one thing you have to understand about women, one thing that will flip the entire dynamic on its head, it's this. Attention is currency. The more freely you give it, the less it's worth. And the less she has to work for it, the more invisible you become. You see, we've been fed this backwards logic our whole lives. Be nice, show interest, text her often, validate her, compliment her beauty, make her feel secure. But here's the twist. The more you do those things unearned, the faster she'll lose respect for you. It's not because she's cruel. It's because psychologically, women associate value with effort required. That's why when you start ignoring her, not out of bitterness, not out of games, but from masculine detachment, she starts to feel something she hasn't in a while, intrigue, and that intrigue triggers desire. Now let's get one thing clear. Ignoring a girl doesn't mean disrespecting her. It doesn't mean being cold, rude, or immature. It means pulling your energy back and letting silence do the heavy lifting, because attention is energy, and most guys spill that energy all over a woman who hasn't even earned a seat at the table. The psychology of ignoring works because it taps into one of the most powerful emotional triggers inside a woman's brain: uncertainty. When you go silent, she starts wondering. When you stop chasing, she starts reflecting. When you don't reach out, she starts obsessing, and that emotional tension, that's the seed of desire, because the female mind equates mystery with value, and the man she can't fully figure out, that's the man she starts craving. Think about it like this. The second she knows she has you, the game is over, not in her words, but in her actions. She stops responding quickly, she becomes short, she forgets to reply. Why? Because biologically, women are wired to pursue value. Not emotional availability, not constant presence, value. And value is proven through scarcity. That's why the man who's always texting, always explaining, always reaching out, unknowingly strips himself of mystique. And without mystique, she has nothing to chase. So the psychology of ignoring doesn't punish her. It restores your value in her mind. It creates that gap where curiosity can live, because in that silence, she starts asking herself the one question you want echoing in her head: why isn't he chasing me like the others? You ever notice how the guy who treats her like a queen gets left for the guy who barely gives her attention? It's not because women want pain, it's because the second something becomes predictable, it becomes emotionally flat. When you're always available, you kill anticipation. And anticipation is the drug she's really chasing. It's what keeps her checking her phone. It's what makes her dress up differently the next time she sees you. Because deep down, she's trying to earn back the reaction she used to get from you. But when you're constantly validating her, there's nothing left for her to earn. And the brutal truth? Women don't fall in love with comfort. They fall in love with contrast, with emotional shifts, with highs and lows. And ignoring her strategically creates that contrast. This is where most guys mess up. They think ignoring her is about control. They make it a power game, but that mindset misses the real point. The real power of ignoring is self-control. It's about pulling back, not to manipulate, but to observe. To give yourself space, to see if she even values your presence when you're not actively feeding her validation. That's where truth lives. When you're not texting first, when you're not checking in, when you're not dancing for her attention, what does she do then? Does she reach out? Does she double text? Does she flirt to regain your gaze? Or does she disappear because the spotlight's gone? Her reaction to your silence is the most honest signal you'll ever get. Here's something no one tells you. Women don't miss you, they miss your attention. And when you ignore her, you find out whether she was into you or just the way you made her feel. That's why you don't break silence too early. You don't explain yourself. You don't say, "Hey, I've just been busy," because silence is the frame. And if you break the frame to chase, you become predictable again. Let her sit in it. Let her wonder. Let her obsess. Let her feel what it's like to lose your gaze. Because when you're always there, she never gets the chance to feel your absence. And it's in your absence, not your presence, that she realizes your worth. Let's go deeper. You're not just ignoring her, you're retraining your own nervous system. Most men can't handle not being in control. They need that text, that emoji, that reply, because they've tied their worth to female attention. But the man who can sit with silence, who can stay centered even when she's quiet, that man becomes lethal. He's no longer chasing validation. He's embodying it. And when you no longer need her attention, she starts chasing yours like a drug. That's the paradox. The more you need her, the less she wants you. The less you need her, the more she starts questioning why. And that question, that's what builds obsession in her mind. You don't need to block her. You don't need to ghost her with bitterness. Just be unavailable. Don't rush to reply. Don't be the first to engage. Don't initiate when she's done nothing to deserve it. Because women crave the feeling of winning a man's attention, not being handed it. And when she feels like she has to earn it, when she has to adjust her energy to match yours, her entire perception of your value shifts. She starts seeing you not as another guy trying to impress her, but as a man whose time is sacred. And a woman will always respect a man who respects his own time more than hers. Here's where the transformation begins. You stop chasing and start leading. You stop overgiving and start observing. You stop speaking and start listening to her silence, to her patterns, to her effort. Because women speak loudest in the things they don't say. And once you become fluent in that language, you stop reacting emotionally. You stop being moved by her hot and cold behavior. You stop trying to decode every word. You just observe, respond, move strategically. Because now, you're in control of yourself. And that, brother, is what makes a woman submit emotionally, not your attention, but your indifference to her unpredictability. You want her to feel something? Then stop filling every silence with words. Stop over-explaining. Stop trying to impress. Just exist in your frame. Solid. Unmoved. Because when you don't need anything from her, you become everything to her. She can't put you in a category. Can't figure out why you're not like the rest. And that confusion, that's where attraction breeds. Because in the absence of your validation, she starts to project her fantasies onto you. She starts wondering who else you're talking to, why you're not chasing, why you're so grounded. And the more she wonders, the more she attaches. Every time you choose not to reach out first, every time you hold back a message you used to send out of habit, you're not just ignoring her, you're reclaiming your power. And power, when held in silence, speaks louder than 1,000 romantic words. She starts to feel it in her gut. That sense that something has shifted, that you're no longer orbiting around her emotional sun, and it disturbs her equilibrium because she was used to you being available. Now, you're mysterious. Now, you're absent, but unforgettable. And here's the crazy part. She becomes addicted to that feeling. The tension, the space, the chase. Because in that space, she can no longer control the narrative. You've interrupted her script, and that's where true seduction lives. She'll start testing you the moment she feels your absence. Suddenly she'll post stories meant for your eyes. She'll text you casually, after days of silence, not because she wants to reconnect, but because she wants to see if you'll break. That's the test. Will you come running back the moment she shows a sliver of interest? Or will you remain solid, cool, calm, and unaffected? Because if you fold, she confirms her power. But if you don't, she gets pulled deeper into that emotional loop where your unpredictability becomes the most magnetic part of you. And now, you're the one controlling the emotional weather, not her. What most men don't realize is that female desire feeds on contrast. The tension between wanting and having, between being seen and being ignored. So when you're always available, there's no contrast. It's flat, boring, predictable. But when you pull back, when you let her miss your energy, when your absence becomes felt like a slow burn in the back of her mind, that's when her imagination starts doing the seduction for you. She starts remembering your presence, your scent, your words. She builds you up in her mind bigger than life. Not because of what you did, but because of what you stopped doing. You might think ignoring her makes you look cold or unfeeling, but in reality, it forces her to earn back the version of you she once took for granted. That's the twist. The man she once thought was too available now becomes the man she craves to impress. And that shift doesn't happen through talking. It happens through your silence, through your refusal to be her emotional crutch, through your decision to stop feeding her ego for free. You become a man of discipline, of focus, of value. And when she senses that you've withdrawn to protect your peace, not out of spite but out of principle, you become the rarest man she's ever encountered. Let me say this with brutal honesty. You don't owe your presence to someone who hasn't shown you respect. Most men give too much, too soon, too fast, because they're afraid of losing the connection. But the irony is, Giving too much is exactly what kills that connection. It makes you look desperate, it removes all mystery, and worse, it tells her you don't value yourself. But when you ignore her, not in hatred, but in wisdom, you communicate everything without saying a word. You say, "I don't chase what runs, I observe what stays." And that sentence alone can haunt a woman's mind far longer than any romantic poem. And here's where it gets powerful. You begin to prioritize your peace over her potential. You stop imagining what she could be and start seeing what she's actually doing. Is she matching your energy? Is she showing up? Is she reaching out with real intent? Or is she just breadcrumbing you to keep your attention on standby? Once you learn the art of ignoring, you develop X-ray vision for emotional games. You stop taking bait. You stop explaining yourself. You start valuing your time like it's sacred. And when she realizes she no longer has unlimited access to you, she either rises to the occasion or fades into irrelevance. Let's talk biology. The female brain is wired to seek validation through social connection. And when that connection is threatened, when her usual sources of attention pull away, her dopamine system activates. She begins to obsess. She starts checking her phone more, wondering where you went, wondering what changed. And that uncertainty creates anxiety. But here's the twist. It's the same anxiety that fuels attraction. You're no longer a sure thing, you're a question mark. And that question mark turns into emotional gravity. She may not even like you that much, but now she needs to resolve the tension. And that need turns into pursuit. She'll say she wants honesty. She'll say she wants communication. But the second you start being completely transparent, telling her you like her, texting her daily, opening up emotionally, her interest fades. Why? Because psychologically, certainty kills desire. Desire needs distance to breathe. It needs tension to survive. And when you give her everything, there's nothing left for her to earn. That's why ignoring her isn't cruel. It's necessary. It's how you let desire mature. It's how you build mystique. It's how you let her miss you. And if she never tries to close that gap, then brother, she was never really into you. She was into the attention. One of the hardest things you'll ever do is walk away without closure. To stay silent when your heart is screaming. To ignore her when every fiber of your being wants to reconnect. But that discipline, that's what separates men who are remembered from men who are used and forgotten. She may not say it. She may not show it. But the man who can disappear without a word, who doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't justify, etches himself into her psyche. Because your silence forces her to face something most women run from: accountability. And it's in that silence that she finally sees your worth. You become powerful the moment you realize that not reacting is a response, that not texting back is a message, that your silence screams louder than any voice note. And when you start moving like that, when your time becomes expensive, when your presence becomes earned, you become unforgettable. Because now she knows what it feels like to lose you. And not just lose you, but lose the version of you who used to care. That version is gone, replaced by a man who's no longer seeking her validation. And in that moment, she realizes the truth. You were the prize all along. Every time you hold back, you show her what she's missing. Every time you stay silent, you create contrast. And every time you ignore her games, you reinforce your frame. And that frame, brother, it becomes your identity. Solid, stoic, selective. Not out of arrogance, but alignment. You're no longer available to women who drain you. You're no longer chasing butterflies. You're building kingdoms. And the woman who wants to be in that kingdom, she has to show up. She has to contribute. She has to bring peace. Otherwise, she'll be watching from the outside, wondering how she lost access to a man who once would have done anything for her. And that's the true seduction. Not in giving her more, but in showing her what she lost when she didn't appreciate less. You stop fighting for her attention, and she starts fighting to regain yours. You stop explaining your value, and she starts feeling your absence. Because when your energy shifts, she notices. She may not say it, but her actions will reveal everything. And that's all you ever needed to see. Not her words, not her apologies, not her excuses, but her behavior. And the moment she realizes that you're no longer the man who waits, who hopes, who begs, that's the moment you become the man she can't stop thinking about. The art of ignoring isn't about punishment. It's about elevation. It's about pulling back to make space for clarity, for truth, for authentic effort. And if she doesn't fill that space, you don't chase, you don't question, you accept. Because your peace is non-negotiable now, you've earned it. And no woman, no matter how beautiful, how sweet, how intoxicating, has the right to disrupt it. She either brings more peace, or she doesn't come in at all. And when you move like that, you become the storm and the calm, the dream and the discipline. The man she never thought she'd lose, but who now lives only in her memory. What makes a man unforgettable isn't how much he gave, it's how much he withheld until it was deserved. That restraint, that's what sets you apart. In a world of men throwing themselves at women's feet, you became the man who stood tall and silent, watching, observing, measuring. And when she finally realizes that her beauty isn't enough to win you over, that she actually has to be something, do something, build something, that's when her entire perception of you transforms. You're no longer another option, you're the lesson. The one who taught her that attention is earned, not owed. So remember this, you don't ignore her to hurt her. You ignore her to see her, to see what lives behind the pretty face and the sweet words, to see if she's real or just another emotional tourist passing through your kingdom. And if she disappears during your silence, let her go. Because the woman who's truly into you won't need a chase. She'll step up, she'll reach out, she'll match your energy without needing your validation to fuel her ego. And the one who doesn't, she was never yours to begin with. Just another actress in a movie you stopped auditioning for, because now you're writing the script. And this time, you're the one doing the choosing,